On September 11th, 2001, the world changed for us all. It was a sunny Tuesday morning, and as usual, I boarded the 8 a.m. subway train at my local Brooklyn stop for my daily commute into Manhattan's Soho district. Around 8:40, I had to transfer trains in the subway station below the World Trade Center complex. The signs posted on the columns at that station read WTC. At 8:46, an airplane crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center, killing everyone on board and hundreds inside that building. I and my fellow passengers were oblivious to all the terror happening above ground because our train had just left the WTC station, and it was business as usual in the underground mall. As I think back, I consider this to have been as close to a near-death experience as I've probably ever had. It took well over a decade for me to get to a place where I can talk about it without having a full-blown panic attack. The question, where were you on September 11th, used to send me into hiding. Can you imagine? If my train was just running a few minutes behind schedule, the unthinkable could have happened, and I might not be with you here today. At 9:03 a.m., hijackers crashed the second plane into the South Tower. It's a pretty surreal feeling for me to recall the week before September 11th, because that previous Tuesday, a friend and I had stood in line to buy tickets to a discounted Broadway show on the 104th floor of that South Tower. Again, thinking about how things could have been so much worse for me. The terrorists could have attacked a week earlier when we were just a few floors above where the plane hit. About a mile and a half after leaving the WTC station, I arrived at my final stop. As I climbed the station steps to street level, I instantly heard sirens all around. I looked up and I saw smoke. Neither of these really alarmed me because sirens were like white noise in New York City, and fires were somewhat common as well. Then my cell phone rang. It was my husband, Larry. I couldn't hear him over all the police squad cars blaring past me, so I hung up. After a few blocks, I reached my building and rode the elevator up to my 6th floor office. I called Larry back from the desk phone. He told me about the breaking news he had just seen on TV. I went to the company kitchen where a few coworkers were already gathered around the big screen TV. And together, we watched as the South Tower of the World Trade Center collapsed. Decorative dinner plates that were mounted to the wall broke the stunned silence when they crashed to the floor. It was then that someone ran in and told us we had to evacuate. A female coworker and I exited the building at the same time. Miraculously, there was an empty taxi parked right outside the front door. She and I jumped in and asked the cabbie to take us to Brooklyn. He said all routes were shut down going south, so he could only take us north. A 9-mile ride took almost an hour because of all the traffic from people trying to leave the island. The cabbie eventually didn't want to go any further, so we had to get out. I honestly don't even know if we paid him. Upon hitting the sidewalk, I stuck up my thumb. Amazingly, a white cargo van pulled right over. The driver offered us a ride across the Queensboro Bridge. My coworker and I got in the back of that dark, dusty, dirty cargo area and huddled together with a handful of other strangers. It was a short ride from Manhattan to Queens. We tried the subway station there, but it had already been closed. So we started walking. We eventually caught another ride from a man who had been delivering that morning's newspapers from the back of his station wagon. He already had a few women with him, but thankfully had room for 2 more. He got us into Brooklyn and within several blocks from my coworker's apartment. After we walked the rest of the way, we arrived to find out that her husband was already home. He said he was able to walk across the Brooklyn Bridge from Lower Manhattan. We were so surprised that he had made it over before all those southern bridges were closed. Thankfully, he owned a car, which was parked at their apartment. Otherwise, I am not sure how I would have ever gotten home that day. They drove me to my apartment nearly 8 hours after I had left for work that morning, and I was completely zonked. During the national tragedy of September 11th, my support network started very small with just one coworker. But tragedy tends to bring out the best in people and bands us together. It was through the kindness of many strangers that I survived that long day. In the weeks following, I began strengthening my resiliency by accepting change as an expected part of our lives. There was an increased police presence in the city and frequent false alarms that caused our building to be evacuated on many more occasions. Cheryl was the coworker with whom I evacuated on 9/11. Cheryl and I actually planned to get together on Saturday and enjoy a visit on this 20th anniversary. Unfortunately, with everything going on with the situation in Afghanistan right now, neither of us thought it was the best idea to fly on September 11th. So instead, we've set up a Google Meet to connect on Saturday afternoon. It will be great to see her face again after all these years. I will never forget our experience together, and she'll always hold a very special place in my heart. Even for any of you who may not have been alive around September 11, 2001, each time that we go through security at an airport, we are all reminded how much that one day changed all of our lives. Let us remember the innocent Americans who lost their lives in the terrorist attacks on NYC and DC, as well as the brave patriots who brought down the third plane in a Pennsylvania field, saving countless more lives. For them, for their families, and our country, never forget. Thank you.